Hello, everybody. Lobotomized Logan here, and we had the big Switch 2 blowout a few days ago. So I'm just gonna go over some what I was right about, what I was wrong about. I want to say I was mostly right on the game side, and I was right on a few things with the tech specs. So let's just go over it first. The screen, what I get right, what I get wrong. It is 1080p. I got that right. I was completely off base. It is gonna be 120 hertz with HDR and VRR support, which means Nintendo's actually coming into the 21st century and targeting the more hardcore audience, which is important with the PC handhelds out now, vying for some of the Switch's user base. But I was wrong that it was going to release at $400 at some point, but with all the tariffs being announced and all the geopolitical stuff, 450 or 500 for the bundle makes more sense. And I'd argue even with the new tech specs of it, 450, while it does hurt, it makes sense. It's a new NVIDIA Ampere chip, what some have speculated, 120 FPS, HDR with a 4K dock. Like this was gonna be expensive. I was one day off on launch. I said May 30th or June 6th. It's coming out June 5th. I didn't expect the Thursday release. And from what the website says, it's going to have 2 to 6 hours. So I was completely wrong about my 1.5 to 3 hour battery life prediction. Now, we're not sure on the exact specs, but we do know it's going to use DLSS. And some games are going to offer both performance and quality modes, like we saw with Metroid Prime. It's going to offer 4K 60 with HDR in quality, and then it's going to offer 1080p 120 in performance. Overall, it does look exciting. I'm not exactly blown away yet. I still have yet to see something from like Monolith or one of the bigger studios Nintendo has, but from what they've shown, definitely a big improvement in terms of graphics quality, textures, and I think this console is definitely going to have the power and the potential to last a lot longer than the original Switch did, especially since we have the leveraging of all these features with the new NVIDIA GPU, DLSS, ray tracing, and the fact that video games have just kind of hit a wall graphically to where an Xbox Series X game and an Xbox One game, like we're still getting cross-generation games because of how similar the generations are. So I think this is going to blur the line even further, because if this sells even half as well as the original Switch did, people are still going to want to buy it. People are going to want to put games on it. Like, we got a ton of quote-unquote impossible ports on the original Switch, but I'm excited to see what we get for the Switch 2. Now we're just going to get into what surprised me, honestly. The new SD cards not supporting the original. I get why they're not, because most new consoles use SSDs and they need a faster form of transfer so that game speeds won't suffer. But a few things that surprised me was I didn't expect Switch upgrades to be paid. I didn't expect Game Share or Download Play, because let's be honest, it's Download Play is coming back. I'm really excited for that. The mouse controller, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't think it would be used like that. Now, while it does keep kind of the same profile, it is 0.2 pounds heavier than the Switch OLED with the Joy-Con 2 controllers attached. And then the whole game chat thing just surprised me. I'm really excited to see what could be done with that, with screen sharing and everything. But let's move on. We're going to move on to the next thing that surprised me is GameCube Classics. Now, GameCube Classics have been rumored, theorized, leaked, whatever you want to call it, since 2017 when the original Switch launched. Like, oh, we'll get portable GameCube Virtual Console. We never did, but hey, we're finally getting it. And some of the headliners is going to be Wind Waker, we're getting Soul Calibur, we're getting F-Zero. I'm just surprised they're adding it onto the current subscription tier, the one that's $70-ish a year, if I remember correctly. This was definitely something they could have charged a completely separate subscription for, and I'm really glad they're not, because Nintendo has to really put forward some pro-consumerism ever since revealing the price and everything to be as expensive as it is, especially since they're going to be charging $80 for some full-price games now, such as Mario Kart World, and I'm sure the next Zelda is going to be $80. But GameCube Classic's pretty cool. Hope we get more Fire Emblem games. Hope we get some games that never came over to America. And please put Eternal Darkness on there. But we're going to move into the next topic about games I got right. The Dusk Bloods is a new From Software exclusive for the Switch 2. And from what I've heard, it's a PvPvE multiplayer action game. So kind of like Night Rain, but less of a roguelike, and still, I would assume, having a story. I don't think Miyazaki would give up on his traditional kind of Souls style just to make a multiplayer game. I could be wrong. The art style, the graphics are interesting, but we'll know more tomorrow when Miyazaki gives his director interview. I really hope it's playable single player, as none of my friends are probably going to get a Switch 2, and I don't want to play with randoms. And I feel like Souls games always benefit from being single player. Overall, though, it was good Nintendo could secure a exclusive this monumental. Has no one secured FromSoft exclusives except for Sony before, so this, it looks good. It looks interesting. I will definitely be picking this up day one just because I love the Souls games. I love like everything Miyazaki has done. But next, we're going to move on to some third-party ports I got right. Now, when it comes to third-party games and what I got right and wrong, I wanted to say I called 3 titles at least. First one was Borderlands 4. I knew this was coming to Switch, as Randy Pitchford said the Borderlands series did pretty good, and especially with the amount of power it has, it's a no-brainer to put it on it. It looks like it's at 60 FPS. It might be running at 40 because that's an option, but overall, it looks pretty good. I'm excited for Borderlands 4. I might pick it up on Switch instead of PC if it actually runs decently. Next game I was correct about is I called out that Cyberpunk is coming to Switch. I knew with The Witcher 3, if they really wanted to do it, they would put it on there. And we actually had a press release. It is going to have a 40 FPS performance mode, 30 FPS quality. It will be on a 64 gigabyte cart, and it's only been in development for 7 weeks, allegedly. Which for 7 weeks, for it to be running that stably on this new hardware, it bodes well for developers. But the final game is one that I wasn't too sure on because I didn't know if Sony still had a stranglehold on it, but Final Fantasy VII Remake, I knew we were going to see something Final Fantasy. I just didn't think it'd be a remake. I honestly thought it would be like 15 or maybe 9, but this is a pretty big seller for RPG fans. I think this will sell really well in Japan, and from what I've heard, it's running at 1080p 30 from what Digital Foundry said, but overall, 3 out of my 5 predictions came true. Sadly, I was wrong about the Microsoft games other than Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, which are apparently running at 4K native, which bodes well for the Switch 2's performance. But let me know, are you excited for the Switch 2? Are you going to pick it up day one? I'm probably going to try and pre-order at GameStop and get the Mario Kart bundle, and then I'm going to pick up Xenoblade Chronicles X, and if I have the money, a Pro Controller and Cyberpunk 2077 to review. Other than that, it's been great. Lobotomized Logan out.
Thank you.